All right, we're back here with another episode of Aftershocks on AftershocksTV.com on the CMS network. And joining us today on this episode from Georgia Hard Rockers, the CEO, we've got vocalist Mack Mullins is with us today. Mack, man, thanks for coming on with us. How are you?
I'm doing great, and I appreciate you having us. Obviously, it's a very exciting time for us. The album's been done for at least a year now, and obviously, with what's going on in the world, the pandemic, we've been setting on it. So finally, it's going to see the light of day. We've had one single released already, and the second one released at noon today, matter of fact. So it's a cool time, exciting time for us. So
great.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, absolutely. And I was just going to actually ask you. I mean, well, first off, you got your new record coming up, first full length for the band. It's called Redemption. It comes out June 25th on Rat Pack Records. And like you just alluded to me, you've had this, record done for well over a year. You did your soft announcement last March, right before the pandemic hit. So I guess just start us off by taking us through a little bit of what you and the band had to go through really over this last, year plus in order to finally unleash this very impressive debut that's been waiting in the wings for a bit now.
Well, it's a really cool story in that, we've gotten together a couple of years ago because we played together in cover bands and tribute bands together, and we're all really good friends, but that had kind of run its course. And, a lot of what you hear on the road, is like, hey, it's cool you play covers. You guys ever write any of your own stuff? It just so happens we do, and we do a lot of it. We've done it for a long time. It's just, just like anything else. It just kind of, sits to the side until you have a chance to actually work with it. So we had put out another, like an EP or an independent record 2 years ago, I want to say, and we showcased it and played it. And, Vinny from Sevendust was there and loved it, thought it was great. He said, you guys are great. We're going to send you to a real studio with a real producer and see how well whether you crack under pressure or you guys actually deliver. So he sent us down to camp. I call it Camp Elvis, but Elvis Basquette, obviously speaks for himself with his resume. So they sent us down there to record. They said, here, come down and cut 4 songs with us and we'll see how you do. So before we got done with the 4th song, he's calling Vince back up, or Vinny, and he's going, hey dude, he goes, not only is this really good, and your boys are doing well down here, but you're coming down and you're going to be the bass player in the band. So
wow.
We did that. He came down. We finished the record with him, and I'm telling you, it was more fun than legally should be allowed to have. So we were really excited. We got this record, and we've got label interest at that time, and things are snowballing and going really well. And then the world falls apart, and here you go. You just sit on it. So it's kind of like having a lottery ticket, for yourself, and then no place to cash it. So
yeah.
Here we are.
Oh, interesting. Yeah, no, absolutely. You just mentioned, you recorded the album with Elvis Basquette. I mean, down at Studio Barbarossa South in Orlando, Florida, which, Elvis is one of the top go-to producers in hard rock and metal these days. And obviously, you said, speaking of Vince knows him. Obviously, he did the last Sevendust record, Blood and Stone. So, yeah, just tell us a little bit more about that overall experience, recording at that studio with such a famed studio maven like Elvis.
Well, you can imagine, getting that call and saying, hey, you're going down to, to record with Elvis and his crew. I mean, that can be pretty intimidating, especially when you walk in. I mean, Slash was there the week before, and Miles Kennedy was behind that mic before you were. And, you see all the platinum records on the wall. I mean, it can be very intimidating. And you're looking at yourself going, man, I hope I don't come down and embarrass this guy or embarrass ourselves. And, you've heard horror stories about, people being tough to work with and that kind of thing. He could not have been any cooler to us. I mean, he was, not only is he like a musical genius, but the guy is as salt of the earth, cool. I mean, he's in there at second night. He's grilling us steaks, like,
Nice.
You're there to visit him and stuff. And he's just that stinking great and that cool. And the whole process it couldn't have been any better. It's probably the highlight of my musical career so far. So awesome. I loved it. It was fantastic.
That's great, man. Well, before we get really into talking about the music, the first thing I want to ask you about is the name, because there's a few things out there about the name and where it came from. Obviously one of the, what I've been reading, one of the things is that you're an actual, and just judging from, it looks like your office right there, you're an actual CEO and entrepreneur in real life. And I've also read where the name has more of a symbolic meaning in reference to being a CEO in one's own life. So talk about how that name came about, the CEO.
Well, you're exactly right. You know, it does have double meanings. Yes, I am a CEO of a company. And, you know, it's weird at this age to be, 50 years old and, trying to, look a part that you're clearly not. You know what I mean? It's like, I get up and go to work every day. I have a wife and kids and, I'm in an office environment. So it only made sense to kind of play into that a little bit, and to say, I'm not wearing leather pants and makeup and that kind of thing, but it's like, okay, this is who we are. Let's play that up a little bit. You can't have a guy in the band like Vince who's they call the boss. So it all just kind of came together. It's the boss, it's the CEO, it's an attitude, and it's certainly a philosophy or way of living. It was like, hey, you're responsible for your own life. I grew up in very humble beginnings in foster homes and went from that to got an MBA and run my own company. And at the same time, I've been, into music since I was a child and, just like everybody else wanted to be a rock star. Clearly that didn't happen, but we kept going, we kept the business front, we kept the music front. And, if some poor farm kid from Virginia can make it in business, make it in school or make it in rock music, then let me tell you something, you can too. And there's something about owning your own life and being the boss and being the CEO that, I think should resonate because, trust me, I was down in the pit looking up at the stage, wishing I was up there just like everybody else was. And then one day you finally get up there yourself and you're looking down on them and you're going, you can do this too. Trust me.
That's great, man. Yeah.
No doubt. Well, Mack, I got to tell you, you and I are kindred spirits of sorts. I too own a couple of companies outside of doing this. And the one thing that I do know is that owning a company and being in the record business, they could not combine less than they do. They just don't mesh. The things about how to be successful in corporate life just do not play in the music world. There's some things that do, but for the most part, it's almost two different worlds. For you, as somebody that has both of those lives, what have you found? Have you found it to be kind of in the same pocket or totally different where you almost have to live two lives, or where has it all come together for you?
I found that I don't know shit. So, you obviously there's an education, working in business and that kind of thing. But once you get to this level of music and you're outside of the clubs and, the demos and in that world, it's a much different planet. And I'm walking into this thing, not like a CEO, but as a, basically I'm the janitor here. I'm just starting. I'm learning a few things. I'm looking around. I'm looking at folks who know what they're doing. And obviously somebody like Vinny, we kind of look to him and go, hey, what are we doing here? Is this right? Is it wrong? And it's funny. I've stumbled a few times since this process. We released the video before we were supposed to, and I got my hand slapped for that. So I'm finding that there's a way of doing things, and I wasn't doing it. So
is that comfortable for you? Because I can tell you, for me, I find myself a lot of times where it's like, I've done this. Oh, wait a minute. I was supposed to involve 3 other people in the decision. I'm not used to it.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. Well, the good news is that you're used to making tough decisions. You certainly know things about budgets and, return on investment and, what's going to work and what's not going to work as it relates to, any type of, business outlet. But at the same time, to your point, you just don't know what you don't know until you get there. And that's where we are. We're just kind of like muddling our way around. And maybe next time we talk, I have a much better clue.
Nice. Well, Mack, let's talk about Vince just for a minute. And I don't want to turn this into a Sevendusty sort of an interview, but you can't avoid the fact that, he's in a great band, one of the greatest,
right,
of the last 20 years. And I honestly think just from the outside as more of a fan learning about your band for the first time, I think the press has been a little bit unfair because every press release starts with Sevendust. And I don't think that's very accurate for you guys. I don't think that's a fair judgment for you. As somebody in the band, how have you felt about every interview being a Sevendust thing?
You know, it's one of those things, because if you could talk to somebody like, you know, Vince, who is, man, he is so cool and he's so humble, and it's, you know, and it's never about him. I mean, they call him the boss for a reason, but you wouldn't know that. It's never about him. It's always about us and that kind of thing. So it's kind of always been his personality. But, you know, I mean, we wouldn't be talking today if it wasn't for him. So, and I am very much aware of that fact, and the fact that, you know, he kind of, you know, helped get us our break, and he was the one that got us down there with Elvis, and, you know, and he's the one that kind of made those phone calls to, you know, some of the management group and what have you. So, you know, and I love him so much, man. I don't care. I'm talking about him all day long. You know, it really, he's just that cool and that much fun. So it's like, if I could slap his name onto something and it goes somewhere, I hope he doesn't mind me using his name. I'm sure he doesn't.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. Well, let's get to the music. I mean, the first single you guys I remember put out was the title track, Redemption. And, you know, on that track, I mean, you guys have first of all, you have a great video, I thought, for the song. I thought it was really a really cool video. And I know lyrically, you know, there's a message in there. It's in the press release that it's essentially a call to action. I'll quote it. It says that it is our response to all the divisiveness that's dominating the headlines these days. So when you say, you know, headlines, are you referring to headlines, you know, in the music press or in the mainstream media in general? Because they kind of both at this stage are sort of coexisting with each other. It's divisive in both sets. So I guess just go ahead and talk a little bit more about the song and the message that you're trying to sort of get out there to hard rock and metal fans with you.
Yeah, especially when we were writing this. I mean, you know, it was right before a presidential election, so you can imagine the whole left-right thing. You know, so that was, you know, every time you turn on the TV or social media, it's, you know, it's you know, bashing this person or bashing this group, and there's riots going on in the world, and it's black versus white, or, you know, this group versus that group. And, you know, that's really frustrating in that, you know, in your own personal lives, I don't know if you guys have experienced, but I don't experience that kind of thing. You know, it's like your friends are your friends, your family is your family, and the people you work with are fantastic and you love them. And, you know, and yeah, you might always agree on certain political standpoints, but we're not as divided as, you know, they want to make you out to be. And that's frustrating to think that, you know, here we are, you know, this point in our history, and, you know, you just keep, you know, splitting people into groups and pitting that one versus this one. And, you know, so it was a frustrating time to, you know, be on social media or turn on the TV. And it's just like, look, I've had enough of it. So it was really kind of just a call to, you know, the everyday people. They go, you know, it's like, you don't think that way. I don't think that way. We're not that kind of way. And let's push back on these people that want to divide us.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I think it's a great message, and it's definitely needed these days. I think we both agree on that. You know, and speaking, you know, just going back a little bit, you know, just talking about you being in the business world as a businessman, you know, and divisiveness. I mean, one of the things that I'm, you know, if you haven't seen already, you know, in the music business is that a lot of musicians or a lot of people in the music business don't like that business mentality. There's always, I mean, just like you, myself, just quickly, I got an MBA. I worked in the music business in Hollywood for a little bit, and I basically got chewed and spit out very easily. And I realized I wanted to get out because it was a different world with business and music. It's a very, you know, it's sort of clashed in that way. Are you concerned at all, or I wouldn't say really concerned, because you're obviously 50 years old, you probably couldn't care less at this point in your life, but, you know, when you go out there and people start hearing the CEO, hearing your songs and your music, and then they come to, oh, well, this guy's he's a big corporate guy, you know, are you worried that the people are not going to give the band a chance because they found out about your, you know, background in business at all in the corporate world?
Yeah, it's funny you brought that up, because I've certainly met with, you know, different people in the industry, and, you know, they brought that up, you know, like, hey, rock is against the man, and guess who you are? You're the man. And, you know, like,
yeah,
you know, maybe 30 years ago, 40 years ago, but, you know, the guys that grew up with, you know, Van Halen and Kiss and these different acts, and, you know, we grew up to be CEOs of companies, or truck drivers, or, I mean, we're everywhere. Your kid's school teacher. I mean, we're all throughout society, you know, it's like, and I don't want to have to put on a costume to kind of give myself credibility to the rock crowd. I'm like, you know, you guys we're a mature enough audience to know that we come from all kinds of backgrounds, you know, it's like, we're all different nationalities and all different colors. And we're, you know, it's like, some people are white collar business guys, and trust me, I can headbang with the best of them. And I love you know, Metallica and Pantera, just like everybody else. I grew up with it, and you and I are exactly the same. So I'm like, give it a chance. If you love the music and you like the attitude, fantastic. And if you don't like the music, I can appreciate that. I understand, but just give it a shot, because
give it a chance. Yeah,
you know, there's something to it.
Absolutely. No, absolutely. And just, you know, getting, you know, of course, now you got this really, you know, really impressive debut record out. Obviously, the next thing to talk about is what about when it comes to touring, okay, or playing live shows, you know, because I'm assuming, obviously, Vince is going to be busy touring with Sevendust, since, you know, they haven't had the chance yet to obviously tour for their last release. So what can the fans and listeners expect from the bands in terms of playing live shows? Is that something that you're kind of working on figuring out right now what to do? Or is there possibly we could see the CEO in the bill with the Sevendust? I mean, what can you tell us at this point, I guess?
Yeah, good. And to your point, you know, I know Vince and those guys are getting ready to hit the road. They're going to be gone June, July, I want to say into September and October. So, you know, we really can't, you know, do a whole lot until, you know, he gets back from that, you know, and then we're an opening act. So, you know, there's going to be, you know, we're looking at weekends and festivals and, you know, the occasional show where he feels like pulling double duty. I mean, the 45 minutes or to an hour that we're on stage before, you know, that's not too tough, but he's got to follow it with a, you know, a blistering 2-hour set behind that. So, you know, all of that is in discussion. You know, the plan is probably fall before we'll see the stage, and then we'll start off and we'll see that, you know, where we can route to where it all makes sense. Okay.
So, I mean, so essentially, I mean, it's, you know, it really, I guess the activity on the band really depends on kind of what Vince is doing with his schedule. I would assume that, I guess.
Yeah. And right? Of course, you can imagine the backlog of bands out there that's trying to get on the road again. Guys to do this for a living, and, you know, how they feed their families. So, you know, these guys are going to get out there. They're going to go first and do their thing. And then once the runway clears a little bit, then acts like ours, we could kind of tag on with those guys and, you know, start to make a name for ourselves on the stage as well. So it's been a waiting game for us, and I anticipate that part to be, you know, just another part of the waiting game for us. But when it comes time, our number gets called, we're going to be ready.
Sure. Okay. And you know, the interesting thing is that might actually open you up, surprisingly, some dates in the fall, because the runway is going to be so full for all the bigger bands, you know, that a lot of the smaller bands are going to have, a lot of smaller rooms are going to need bands that have a little bit of notoriety. So you may very well find that late October, early November time frame with some openings.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. In fact, I think we're looking at, you know, right now we're planning the album release party, which will probably be in August, even though the record's already been out. But we'll just do the big party. We'll do a show, and, you know, and do it that way. So all those conversations are still going. But to your point, you're absolutely right. I think there's going to be some really good opportunity for us if we be patient and let the summer happen, and then we'll address fall and winter. So
right, certainly. Now, Mack, though, I wanted to point out, I'm going to name one song, but I could really name about 8 others that fit this same bill. The song Behind These Eyes, which just seems absolutely perfect for active rock radio stations. It just seems like it could be plugged in on any station anywhere in this country and work. Was writing those kind of songs that are definitely heavy enough, but also have, you know, the big hooks and the, you know, the nice radio sound, was that an active decision that you guys made, or is that something Elvis kind of instilled in you, or did it just kind of flow together that way?
Yeah, let me tell you the secret to that one is, the secret to that is having 2 guys in the band in their 50s, 1 guy in his 30s, and 2 guys in their 20s, you know. So you can imagine the influences that we grew up on, you know, which, you know, the big active rock radio, the big hooks and the melodies, that kind of thing. And these guys, you know, from a more modern metal sound, so, you know, a lot of the drop tunings, you know, that kind of thing. And especially the drummer, he's really into, you know, some of the more, you know, modern drumming and that kind of thing. So it was really a blend of you know, different ingredients that came together, the gumbo that is the CEO. So I can't, other than the fact that there were certain things that they presented to me that was like, you know, hey, that's kind of out of my wheelhouse. It may be a little too aggressive for us. Let's kind of do that. But for the most part, it was just a natural, this is the way I approach lyric writing and vocal melodies. This is the way they approach music. It works.
Sure, no doubt, man. Well, it certainly has worked on this album. The name of the album, one more time, is called Redemption. It is the CEO. And Mac, where should we tell people to go online to pre-order the record or to buy the record and keep up with you guys and tour dates and all that stuff?
Yeah, right now we're in the middle of our pre-orders via ratpackamerica.com records, the CEO. And of course, we're on all the major social medias, the Instagram, Facebook. And, we've got links to our YouTube videos, et cetera. So you can get on top of the pre-orders now. 2 of the songs, Behind These Eyes that you just mentioned was released today. So you can get that on iTunes. It'll be up on Spotify soon. I think it's on Amazon as well. So all the major outlets. But if you really want to get in contact with us and see what we're doing next, then come to the social media or our band webpage, theceoband.com.
Excellent.
Awesome.
And one more time, the name of the album is Redemption. It is the CEO. And Mac, thanks so much for joining us here on Aftershocks.
Yeah, thanks,
Guys,
Mac.
I'm so excited to be here and really appreciate your time. And obviously, if we can do anything for you, let us know.
Awesome. Appreciate it, Mac. Take care, buddy.